welcome to Tales of Honor Podcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the true stories of the Congressional Medal of Honor. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tales of Honor Podcast. I'm your host, Christoph Ambrosch. This is episode 53, and it's going to go back to World War II again. We're on a little bit of a World War II streak here, which is fine. There's quite a few from World War II, and we'll get through them all. No worries. No rush. We don't want to rush this. Good things take time. And good things also happen by the person who's bringing you this show tonight, DesignCake Studios. Look, have you headed over to their website? I don't know why you haven't. You should. And they're a small creative design company with big talent in graphic design. If maybe you have personal branding and you need a look, or your business needs a look, and maybe the one you have just isn't quite cutting the mustard. I don't know who came up with that phrase, but whoever came up with the phrase cutting the mustard should have went to DesignCakeStudios.com. I know I did, and I couldn't be any happier with the logo and the business cards I got from them, and I'm always getting compliments on them. And when you do contact them, let them know that you heard about them here on the podcast, because if you do that, you'll receive a free consultation. Good stuff. DesignCake Studios. Fresh thinking, made bold. And now, a tale of honor. James H. Mills was born on the 2nd of May, 1923, in Fort Meade, Florida. He enlisted in the United States Army in September of 1943, and it was his actions in Italy that earned him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty, Private Mills, undergoing his baptism of fire, preceded his platoon down a draw to reach a position from which an attack could be launched against a heavily fortified strongpoint. After advancing about 300 yards, Private Mills was fired on by a machine gun only 5 yards distant. He killed the gunner with one shot and forced the surrender of the assistant gunner. Continuing his advance, he saw a German soldier in a camouflage position behind a large bush, pulling the pin of a potato masher grenade. Covering the German with his rifle, Private Mills forced him to drop the grenade and captured him. When another enemy soldier attempted to throw a hand grenade into the draw, Private Mills killed him with one shot. Brought under fire by a machine gun, 2 machine pistols, and 3 rifles at a range of only 50 feet, he charged headlong into the furious chain of automatic fire, shooting his M1 from the hip. The enemy was completely demoralized by Private Mills' daring charge, and when he reached a point within 10 feet of their position, all 6 surrendered. As he neared the end of the draw, Private Mills was brought under fire by a machine gunner 20 yards distant. Despite the fact that he had absolutely no cover, Private Mills killed the gunner with one shot. 2 enemy soldiers near the machine gunner fired wildly at Private Mills and then fled. Private Mills fired twice, killing one of the enemy. Continuing on the position, he captured a 4th soldier. When it became apparent that an assault on the strongpoint would, in all probability, cause heavy casualties on the platoon, Private Mills volunteered to cover the advance down a shallow ditch to a point within 50 yards of the objective. Standing on the bank in full view of the enemy less than 100 yards away, he shouted and fired his rifle directly into the position. His ruse worked exactly as planned. The enemy centered his fire on Private Mills. Tracers passed within inches of his body. Rifle and machine pistol bullets ricocheted off the rocks at his feet. Yet he stood there firing until his rifle was empty. Intent on covering the movement of his platoon, Private Mills jumped into the draw, reloaded his weapon, climbed out again, and continued to lay down a base of fire. Repeating this action 4 times, he enabled his platoon to reach the designated spot undiscovered, from which the position it assaulted and overwhelmed the enemy, capturing 22 Germans and taking the objective without casualties. Like others that had received the Medal of Honor, James was assigned to the task of traveling and selling war bonds. He left the Army in May of 1945 and went home to Polk County to continue farming. He preferred a quiet life and worked as a wildlife officer and for the Veterans Administration. He even went back to Italy to lay flowers at the graves of the Germans that he had killed. 29 years after his actions, James had stopped to help what he thought was a stranded motorist near Gainesville, Florida. This person was in fact impersonating a stranded motorist and inflicted wounds on James that he would die from. A campaign was later started in order to raise money to build a memorial to James in a park, and in 1998, the Medal of Honor Park was completed. James H. Mills is buried in Oak Hill Burial Park Cemetery in Lakeland, Florida. And that was a Tale of Honor. Thank you so much for listening to Tales of Honor podcast. Look, let's be honest with each other. It's just you and me. Lean in closer. I know you like this podcast, so just go on and leave a nice review and leave a good rating. Tell your friends and family. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Just you and me talking here. Forget everybody else. Just do that. It's the right thing to do. And look, when they tell you, well, how can I listen to this? Well, you can tell them. Go on to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you can find a podcast. Find the word podcast. You can probably listen to us there. And you can also listen to full episodes on our Facebook page too. Fun fact, if you didn't already know that. You can see more information on our Facebook page as well as Instagram and at talesofhonorpodcast.com. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them right over to me. That's this guy at talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Christoph Ambrose. Thanks for listening.